There are places in this world where the past refuses to stay buried, where history clings to the land, whispering its stories to those who dare to listen. In the heart of Afghanistan's Helmand province, there is such a place, a lonely outpost known as Observation Point Rock, or simply OP Rock. Perched on a barren mound above the desert, OP Rock was once a strategic stronghold. Originally a mud fortress, its crumbling walls and ancient arrow slits bore witness to centuries of conflict. It had been a hiding place, a battlefield, and as some believed, a mass grave. The British, the Soviets, the Taliban, and the US Marines had all fought for control over this desolate hill. But long before modern soldiers set foot there, locals whispered that the land was cursed. As the sun dipped below the jagged horizon, the Marines stationed at OP Rock braced themselves for another long night. They had been warned. The British troops who occupied the outpost before them spoke of strange lights prowling the desert, disembodied whispers in Russian, and an unshakable feeling of being watched. They laughed it off until they saw it for themselves. It started with the digging. On their first full day at OP Rock, the Marines noticed that the defensive trenches were too shallow. In a place as exposed as this, every inch mattered. So they grabbed their shovels and started to deepen the trench. Within minutes, Private Wilson's shovel struck something hard. He bent down and pulled up a long, weathered bone, a human femur. A few feet away, another Marine uncovered part of a skull. Then another. By the time they stopped digging, they had uncovered dozens of skeletal remains. Their brittle forms tangled in the dirt like forgotten relics of a violent past. That night, the unease began. The first to experience it was Lance Corporal Hoyt, who had the first watch shift in the guard shack. As he scanned the horizon through his night vision goggles, a sudden wave of dread crawled up his spine. He wasn't alone. From the darkness, a blood-curdling scream tore through the silence. Hoyt spun around, his rifle raised, heart hammering. In the distance, a shadow darted between the rocks. He barked into his radio, alerting the others. Sergeant Green grabbed his thermal scope and took position beside Hoyt. Through the green haze of his lens, he saw nothing. No heat signatures, no movement, just empty desert. Yet Hoyt swore he had seen something, or someone, moving. And he wasn't the only one who felt it. The unit's adopted stray dog, Ugly Betty, was going berserk, barking and growling at something unseen. The Marines spent the rest of the night on edge, waiting for an attack that never came. When dawn broke, they searched the perimeter. There were no footprints, no signs of an intruder, nothing. Over the following nights, the strange occurrences escalated. Marines reported hearing faint whispers in Russian, drifting through the cold night air. At first, they blamed the radios. Perhaps they were picking up interference from an old Soviet frequency. But even when the radios were off, the voices remained. Lance Corporal Zolik had the worst of it. One night, he was standing watch when he felt hot breath on his neck. A deep, guttural voice whispered something in Russian, sending ice through his veins. He whirled around, but there was no one there. Terrified, he abandoned his post and refused to stand guard alone again. On another occasion, Corporal Lima was using thermal imaging to scan the desert when he spotted a figure standing motionless a few hundred meters away. The shape was humanoid, fists clenched at its sides, but when he switched back to night vision, the figure was gone. Moments later, he felt a heavy tap on his shoulder. He turned, nothing but empty air. Then came the night of the firefight. It was just past midnight when the first shots rang out. The Marines scrambled to their positions, bullets tearing through the night. The distinct whistle of an RPG launch sent them ducking for cover. But something was off. As the firefight raged on, the Marines noticed that none of their positions were being hit. No rounds were striking the outpost. The RPG had supposedly exploded inside OP Rock, but there was no impact, no shrapnel, no damage. When the gunfire abruptly stopped, the Marines waited, hearts pounding, fingers tight on triggers. Hours passed in tense silence. Finally, as dawn broke, they emerged to inspect the outpost. Not a single bullet hole. No evidence of an attack. No enemy bodies. Nothing. On their final night at the outpost, something even stranger happened. The radios went dead. Every single one. Even the backup comms failed. It was as if someone didn't want them to leave. When morning came, the relief unit arrived, and the Marines packed up and left OP Rock without looking back. But the story didn't end there. Sergeant Green, who had been the first to dig up the bones, later confided to a friend that he believed they had disturbed something ancient, something that did not want to be found. Was OP Rock merely a war-torn relic of past battles, or was it something more? A place where restless spirits refused to move on? Perhaps some places are better left undisturbed. Watch these videos next for more chilling adventures.